Hello darlings, what fettle? Today I'm talking about men and I'm talking about women and about how I see it and how I used to see it. I'll tell you all about it on the other side. When I was a lad, I was not very manly. I'm saying that. I don't know whether I'm manly now, but I'm more manly than what I used to be. When I was younger, when I was in my 20s, I was taken for being gay. Okay? I was constantly being accosted, and that is exactly the word I would use, accosted by gay men. Disclaimer, I used to frequent a lot of gay bars. There was a gay scene in Newcastle and they had the most fun. The bars were really good fun. The whole atmosphere was good. So I used to go there. Naturally, I was taken for gay. But it was also my kind of way of being, all right? So I wasn't very masculine. And I used to really struggle with strong male masculinity. I used to find it a little bit unnecessary. Right? Maybe I've just been a sensitive soul, but I used to find it unnecessary. And so what would happen, for example, I'll give you an example. In the factory that I worked in Newcastle, the manager's office, it was always a bustling, busy place. People were going in with questions and coming out. The vast majority of the people who worked in the factory were women. All right, the team leaders were women, supervisors then. We changed it to team leaders later on when we got funky in the 90s. There used to be supervisors. They would be in and out, but the manager was male. And most of the immediate staff were male. And so what would happen is we'd be in the office and there'd be a supervisor, female supervisor, two of them in, and we'd be chatting away, just normal, like what you do. And then the women would go out, leaving only the men. Now this was in the late 80s, early 90s. And instantly the door closed and the women had gone. Then what would happen would be this. All the time, the men would go, hey, whoa, I've been dying to get rid of that. And that's what would happen. They would just become these like gorillas, like swearing for no reason. It's almost like they were like the fart. They were holding it in whilst the women were there. And when the women went, it was like Tourette's. It just had to come out. And it used to, no rhyme, no reason to it. And I struggled with that. I used to struggle with that. I used to think, why do you have to pretend to be something different? Why can't you just be yourself? And now this is a theme of my life. It's what I've been working on, is just trying to be myself and not pretend to be something. There's no need to be. And that's what I used to think. There's no need to do those kind of things and swear so much. That's not impressing me. However, everybody else seemed to do the same. All the men. And I never got involved. I never kind of stooped to their level. If I'm going to use that. Stooped. I never went up to their level. Let's say that. That makes it probably a bit better. I just stayed where I was. In turn, I used to see, women always interest me. I was always interested in them. Ever since I could remember, I was always interested in women. So I love talking to women. I love being with women. I love women's conversation. Here in Spain, I always talk to women because men are difficult to understand because there is a certain amount of slang, sweary, machoism here as well in Spain between men. And I find out just for my ear, because it's my second language, I find it much easier to understand women than men. Okay? But I discovered that women were lovely in my 20s. That they were lovely. I loved women. And that's what I thought. I thought women were just lovely and nice. And then I discovered the potential. There is nothing like the scorn of a woman. The potential I discovered was that women, how can I put it? Women can run circles around men. So we've got the men thing in the office, swearing, farting, talking about sex, basic stuff. Yeah? Women, you can't read them. I can't. Women can read women. I know that. My wife was often going, look, I'll tell you this. And I'm going, what? Never saw anything. Can't believe. No, surely not. And she's going, yes, I'm telling you. No. I discovered that women could be, with their capacity for being able to weave into things, stuff that we can't see, they can be extremely manipulative and they can be extremely naughty. Very naughty. Not all women. Some of them. But the journey that I had to go on was to actually understand who those kinds of women were. Because they always came across to me, the ones who caused the most problems always seemed to be the nicest at the beginning. And it wasn't until later that I really started to understand the signs that the ones who actually caused more problems were the ones who did a lot of this. Anyway, it was kind of like my pathway through life was to understand that not all women are nice. Okay? And to understand that men need to be macho when they're together. They need to be. It's just their thing. And they're very happy with it, by the way. You know, it's not like, I don't think they feel bad about being manly. And this is what I discovered. You know, men, when they get together, just want to be a bit macho. And talk about tools and women and sex and breaking wind and swearing and the gym and stuff like that. Yeah. That's the difference. I discovered the difference between the two genders is a million miles away. There's a book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. There's a big distance between those two planets, if they are planets. And so we are different. And that's what I learned. And it's been a nice journey. I still love women. Love them to bits. But I also like men. Now, I like macho men. Now, what I realise is that we are in fucking short supply of macho men. Society, manipulated by those behind society, has created this. You know, when we were talking about plasticine, all the colours mixed together, you know, men blue, women pink. Mix it all together and you get shit brown. That's where I see us now. So we've got this. And it's only a small wave, eh? It's a very small percentage with an extremely fucking loud voice. This is the problem. Lots of times we believe it to be much bigger than it is. Because if I walk out and I walk around the streets, I go to a shopping centre, what I see is very clearly girls and boys. That's what I see. Girls and boys. But then there's this small window of what I would call men who have been eunuchized. They are eunuchs. They might still have a couple of danglers, a couple of clangers going on there, but they're not working. And they are certainly not pumping out any testosterone worth its salt. And they, quite frankly, boil my piss. They don't really. I just wanted to use that expression to show the kinds of things I would hear in the office between men. No, they disappoint me greatly. Why? Because they're kind of being untrue to themselves. Now, I was never macho, okay? Now, I, on purpose, aim to be more masculine than I've ever been. Why? Because we're in short fucking supply, as I said. And then we've got all of these no-mark, wimpy, and I'm not saying these are not the gay. I've seen more macho gay men. I mean, let me tell you, in that place in Newcastle, the ones with the big mustaches and the vests like Freddie Mercury style, they were very macho. They were macho. All right, there were some that weren't, but they were macho. But now we've got these hopefully heterosexual, God only knows, God only knows, And you look at them and you think, well, I mean, generally, this is what I see. Slightly overweight, like not taking care of themselves. And, and it's the same in the women's department. These women that have given up femininity. Boy, have they given up femininity. You can see it. They've changed the dye of the hair, a colour that is the least sexy colour you could possibly imagine. Sometimes then they let it grow out, which is like, if that colour's like zero sexy, letting it grow out so you've got roots is like -5 sexy. Generally, a little bit overweight, not taking care of themselves. Why? Because I don't believe that they love themselves very much. On both sides of the camp, yeah? And I'm not talking about that sort of camp. I'm talking about the camps in which they reside, supposedly purporting to be male, purporting to be female. And so we've got these like no mark, no gender, and women trying to be masculine, which is zero sexy also. Disclaimer. When I was younger, I used to find, when I was younger, not now, it's over now, it's over. But when I was younger, I used to find girls who were tomboys sexy, as long as they were good looking, obviously. That'd be good looking. But I would find that sexy, a little bit sexy. But they weren't gay. They were tomboys, but they were heterosexual. And I used to find that sexy. Now, what we've got is women who are pretending to be men. Not in any way tomboy. I wouldn't use tomboy is a compliment that I would not put upon them. More so, I would say they're going for the, how can I be as least sexy as possible so that the only people that I will attract are the men who don't have any testicles, yeah, or whose testicles are in disrepair. And I'm sure they'll make a lovely couple and make themselves incredibly unhappy for the rest of their lives. But that's not what we want in this world. What we want, and hey, there was a woman who's got a YouTube channel, I can't remember. She's like, she's a wife who, here in Spain, a wife who prepares food for her husband. And she does like videos and she's making all of this lovely food for her husband. She's been pilloried by that group, that small, ugly group of witchy poos, saying it's disgraceful, bowing to this toxic masculinity. Husband comes in and there's this fantastic meal on the table and he says, wow, that is so beautiful. I've got to buy you a dress. Or something like that. I don't know how that works. But she's got loads of subscribers. She's the most popular person on the internet in Spain. People love her. Absolutely. Why? Why do they love her? Because she's standing up for values that the vast majority, and I'm saying the vast majority, I would say 95% of us just want nice, traditional, normal values. Not extreme anything. We don't want extreme anything. But what we want is to be able to have what we've had. This beautiful divide, this beautiful symposium of music that exists between the male species and the female species. This symphony of beauty and movement and joy and fun. And, let's not forget that were it not for male and female joining together and betrothing and becoming one and copulating as nature decrees, all of those shit brown colour people wouldn't be here. And it's almost like they deny that, that's not the way that we want it. Well, it's the way that it's going to be, because it's the way that it's always been. They didn't come around by their parents not being sexually attracted to one another. And what they're doing is they're just making themselves in this I'm not going to be attractive. And, it's interesting now, every time that something happens like to protest against toxic masculinity, they shave their head and they say, that's it, no man's going to touch me for the next 6 months. And I look at those photos and I think your timing's a little bit out. Just don't even bother with for the next 6 months. No man is going to touch me. And I think that's pretty much where they're putting themselves in this awful place. And you know the sad bit, I mean, talking as a therapist, there's an awful lot of self-loathing going on. They truly do not love themselves. And they're so angry that they are willing to hurt themselves, to do themselves damage, to have the attention that they believe that they need, because they're not able to give themselves their own attention. They're not able to give themselves a feel-good factor in their lives. And so the only way that they can feel good about themselves is to be this social do-gooder, yeah, who's out there showing how wonderful they are by hurting themselves and by hurting those around them. What a shame, eh? What a real shame. So, that's my take on masculinity and femininity. I like it. I like the differences. I love men and I love masculine men. Thank God they exist. Somebody's got to take the top off that jam jar, haven't they? Somebody's got to unscrew that pipe. And somebody's got to come up and make us feel nice and put their arms around us and tell us everything's going to be all right and beautiful. So, I believe that the genders are coming back. And I believe that probably because of the rebound effect, they're going to come back and we're going to have this extreme machoism and extreme feminism. Very good. Let it rebound. And let the offices be filled with swear words and farts. And long may it live. I love you all and I'll speak to you all later.